Tell me when you're ready. All right, fantastic. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out this evening. I am Debra Dudek. If you guys have any questions along the way, need clarification, please raise your hand. I'd be more than happy to try to answer. But if you have deep involved questions that involve share time, we can kind of save that for the end, because I love hearing what everybody's found or hasn't found or needs help with along the way. So let's talk about Fold3. If you have access with your Schaumburg library card, if you have access to a couple other libraries that are offering Fold3, my library does, I know the Newberry does. Fold3 is available also as a private subscription. We're not going to focus on the private subscription as much as we're going to focus on the library edition, which is what you get with your library card, okay? So Fold3 was formerly known as Footnote.com. It was purchased by Ancestry about 5 or 6 years ago, and they've been updating to make this sort of their military depository. Footnote previously was a collection that was made up from different libraries, archives, universities that were kind of throwing stuff together, so it was a big hodgepodge. When Ancestry bought Footnote and turned it into Fold3, they wanted a space where they could dedicate a lot of military records. So that was kind of going to be their parking spot for military records. Some people who use Fold3 say it's confusing, it's difficult to use, they don't find it very user-friendly. It's very different from Ancestry. If you've been trained to use Ancestry as much as you have, people say, I can never find anything on Footnote. I don't even know why I have it. I can never find it. But we're going to go through today not only the military collections, which Fold3 specializes in a lot of different military records from around the world, which is great, but we're also going to focus on their historical collections that are not only available for military, but for non-military records. And we're going to dig through this to show you the highlights of what's really, really great about this. So their significant historical collections include some of these topics and even more. Now, these are the ones that I tend to consult quite a bit when we go through Fold3. These are some of the collections that I use, but there's some gems in here that we also have. My personal favorites are the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation records, which is going to sound unusual, but in my book and another topic that I give talking about aliens in the Army, so how non-citizens gained American citizenship during the First World War by enlisting in the Army, and they were kind of waved through. They filled out both sets of those declarations of intents, and all the other types of naturalization process was smoothed for them. So they had that those records suddenly made them Americans. But what's nice about the Federal Bureau of Investigation is that they're investigating non-Americans living in the United States. And they had a whole network of people called the American Protective League, which were made up of upstanding citizens, just as like yourselves, who like to spy on other people, fill out paperwork, and raise funds to find out more things about their neighbors. So essentially people who had absolutely no idea of privacy laws, or what we would consider privacy laws. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation files are vastly underestimated, and they're fantastic, and we'll go through some of those too. So the significant genealogical collections that I want you guys to use Fold3 for are military pension files. Most of those are going to be for the War of 1812, which were fully funded and are free, regardless if you have a Fold3 account. The military muster and enlistment rolls for various wars, military service indexes, which will help you find other records, whether at the National Archives, Archives 1, National Archives 2, or the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis. Naturalizations, though not every single naturalization is on here. Remember, naturalizations could take part at any place in the United States in any court, provided that they provided naturalization services as a service to the community. So this isn't every single naturalization, but they're growing into a larger portion of that. Passport applications, which people say, oh, my ancestor never traveled. They never traveled any further than 10 miles away. You'd be surprised. Passport applications provide a ton of information for people who are getting it, even if they don't necessarily think they're leaving the country, but they might have it for a future trip. They would still fill it out and still have their passport, even if they didn't use it. But the passport will often include a photograph or a photograph of an entire family, and those things are fantastic. The big ones are city directories. If you're not using this for city directories, you haven't been paying attention. They're very specific vital records, which are mainly for Texas or Ohio, which are their big ones, and then the newspapers. But they also have very unusual, and this is a holdover from footnote, very unusual employment records, orphan home records, and correspondence collections. And we're going to go through those. So when you get to Fold3, because I'm a big believer in having things color-coded, is this helpful? I'm a big fan. So up at the top, you have, this is through the library edition. It will always have the member login area at the top right-hand side of the page. There's nothing I can do about that. But at the top, it should say Fountaindale Public Library or Schaumburg Public Library at the top. And underneath of that, you have the green circle for search, the blue circle for browse, the yellow circle for memorials, the purple circle for help. Then they have what I call the dummy box with the yellow arrow in the center. And then in the red arrow on the left, you're going to actually pick which types of records you're going to look at. Now, your number one problem with this, never, ever, ever use the dummy box in the middle of this page. Don't do it. That's your number one problem. Going here will essentially make you search through every single, it's going to search the whole site. And if you have an ancestor like mine, John Smith, do you think I want every single John Smith record from Fold3? No, it's ridiculous. You'd be crazy. I don't have that many John Smiths, and I don't even like the guy that much. So I don't want you guys to use this. I want you guys to instead use the browse portion, which is in the blue circle at the top, or using the browse on the left-hand side of the page with the big red arrow. Those are the items I want you to start clicking on. So they do have these. Notice at the very, very bottom, ladies and gentlemen, of this title, it starts going through all your major wars, right? And then it gets down to international after recent wars, which was kind of cute. At the very bottom, it says non-military records. They put it down there like it's the last thing that you want to see. That's the first thing that you want to see, is that item at the very, very bottom, those non-military records. When we go into the overall search area, and this is another portion that confuses people. When you get into the search area of the site, there's a first name and a last name. But notice that there are two boxes that are highlighted in yellow arrows. One will say sounds like, and the other one says sounds like. You're doing yourself a huge disservice by not clicking on those boxes. You have to physically click them. Because what happens when something sounds like something? Do you guys find paperwork that's always correct with your ancestor's last name completely spelled, always correct all the time? No, you don't. So clicking on those boxes is going to help open up your search results to items that the search mechanism thinks it sounds like Smith. So if your Smith is spelled S-M-I-T-H, but what if somebody in some paperwork spelled it S-M-I-T-H-E? It's still Smith, but it's not going to show up in your search results unless you click those little buttons. I can't really spell it out much further than that. The other bit is to put in things like keywords. This helps if you know specifically an application number for a pension, if you know a military unit or a military rank, a specific place. So remember, we go state, county, city, whatever have you, be specific, and then a year range. That's really, really important as well, because I don't want all the John Smiths from this entire collection. Maybe I just want the John Smiths who served in the battle of, who were in the War of 1812, and I just want the War of 1812 stuff. Maybe I just want records from 1812 to 1900. Maybe I just want something like that. And then added. So right now it defaults to added any time on the site. But what I like about it, they'll say, I only want to see the records from the last month. I only want to see the records from the last 6 months. You have the ability to go back, instead of going through your search over and over and over again and seeing the same results, you can narrow it down to, I just want to see the stuff that was added the last 30 days. I've already been on the site. I've searched the whole thing. And I know what's already here, but I want to see the stuff that's new. They give you that option on Footnote that you don't get on Ancestry, which is really, really nice. So I have an ancestor with the amazing name of Ezra Pope. I have a lot of weird names in my family. Do you guys want a few? Personal? Odell. That's my great-great-uncle is Odell. I have another one named Zilla. I have another one named Azzy. I have ancestors with the wonderful name of Horatio Dietrich. I have beautiful names. Then I have John Smith. Don't you want to smother that guy with a pillow? You just want to do it. But in this instance, with an ancestor who served in the Revolutionary War, like Ezra Pope, if you've got somebody, and type in just the name Ezra Pope, I didn't put any additional items. So if you have an ancestor with a strange, beautiful name that you don't often get, a regular search for that name and a time period typically does fairly well. So in this search, I didn't put anything else. I didn't put Revolutionary War. I didn't put a time period. I just put Ezra Pope. And in this, it shows me the timeline or the all categories on the left-hand side in the blue, with the blue circle. Then it gives me the timeline box, which is in blue in the center. And I have the ability to move that timeline arrows inward to bring it down to a time period if I'm looking for it. And what I like about this, it shows you in a graph. It's kind of small, but can everybody see how it looks like a little mountain in the center? Yeah. That's where a majority of the records are. And so we can kind of bring it in to shorten our search to just that sweet visual time period of seeing what we're looking for. That's the richest amount of records. Does it mean I'm going to get every record that way? No, but it tells me this is a bulk of where these records are being produced and are made available. So this is a visual cue that maybe I should go check those out for that time period. The underneath that is for the U.S. state. So I knew from my research that he lived in, he was born in Connecticut, like every good Connecticut Yankee, but then he moves to Massachusetts, and then he moves to New Jersey, and then he finally dies in Ohio. Oh, he lives in Canada for like 4 years, and then he moves to Ohio. But I knew that most of his records are going to be in those states. So I have the ability to narrow down, and you'll see Connecticut's kind of small, but see how they're super yellow in some areas of that country? So if the state has more records, so Connecticut was a big one, it has 62 matches. So I can limit it just to that 62 matches in Connecticut by clicking that box. Or Massachusetts, and I can go through. He was never in California. He's not in Philadelphia. I cannot click on those and just see the ones for the geographical area that I know he's in. And that helps me, again, refine my records. Further on, next to that, on the right-hand side, are things like, it brings up the biggest hits. So their biggest hits are the final payment vouchers and military pensions for the United States, Civil War pensions, the Civil War service files, and then it starts getting into the smaller hits, if you will. So World War I draft registrations. Is somebody who was a pensioner from the Revolutionary War going to be in World War I pension files? No, they're not. And they're not going to have a draft card. But they just took it. Again, this is the whole reason why you can narrow down that time period to just the things in that time period that you're looking for. And that helps out significantly. But knowing that I need this final payroll voucher, a payment voucher, and military pension for my Daughters of the American Revolution supplemental, because my sister's tired of only having one little tiny gold name on her badge. This is how much I love that woman. You know, I worked 3 years on that application through my dad's people, and I worked my butt off. 2 years. I didn't even want to be in the DAR, but it seemed like the thing to do. You got all these beautiful women saying, you should join. We have tea. Like, you should join. We have cookies. And I'm like, I guess I'll do it for the cookies. So I joined. I didn't really go to any meetings because they weren't on a night that I could go because I had to work. But my sister says, I want to make new friends. I want to join the DAR. All she had to do was I just did her whole application for her, put in my number, put in her stuff. They exchanged it in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot with her little dog tucked underneath her arm. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever seen. And what am I doing again? Spending another 2 years helping that girl get another shiny little gold pin on her little badge. She's not doing any of the research. She just wants more bling. Men, that's all you got to get your woman is another piece of bling to put on her DAR ribbon, okay? Anyway, so as it sits, I digress. So anyway, so here's the pension. So when you get the file actually, if you click on it, it gives you a full view of the page. This is what I like about this. This is where you can start to play. that notice in the center, that's what everybody's eyes are drawn to, is what would be page 2 of this pension file. Below it, you'll see page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. I can click on, this is my little preview. I can click on any one of those pages that I want anytime during this process. Maybe I'm just going to browse through them very, very quickly. Maybe I need one specific page because that page is the thing I need for my application or for my scrapbook or whatever have you. Notice to the top in the yellow circle is a view larger area. If you click that, that essentially is going to allow you to zoom in, zoom out, so you can really see right up the nostrils of any record that you possibly have on the page, okay? Down to the nose hairs and the boogers. It's that good. Up at the top, you'll also see that I can modify my search. I didn't circle it, so I apologize. But in the red circle is a go back area, and it tells me how many more matches that I have available for this name, that specific name. So if I'm available, I can download each one of these pages if I want to. I can save them onto my computer. I can save them on my flash drive. I can print them if I want. It's all there, and you had a chance to preview it. So if the older the records or the records that have had the most funding show up on these sites, you really do have the ability to get whatever you want. Now underneath the yellow arrow that's pointing to your gallery, you guys will notice it tells you where the item is coming from. So it's coming from the National Archives, and you can cite your source from there if you should be citing your sources and where you got it from. So you can do that. They have a nice link you can copy and paste and put that in your item. Does that sound fair? Sound legit? Perfect. So this is what I recommend to people who do not have an awesome name like Horatio Dietrich or Ezra Pope or Adam Poole Vandiver or somebody, which was really, really amazing, Jimaloo Freelove. If you do not have a cool ancestor with a cool name, I want you guys to go through the browse area. The browse area is the yellow circle. It's browse. So we have home, we have search, we have the yellow circle for browse, the memorials, and the help, right? I want you guys to use the yellow circle that says browse. In that, it's going to take you to category. And this is the best way to see this site. It's not necessary through searching, it's through browsing the site. Because it's going to open up like an accordion for you as you start using this browsing option. So notice it has all titles. Do not go to all titles yet, all right? Pick the specific time period or the specific item that you are going to want to look for. So you're going to kind of fold out. So notice if I'm looking for the War of 1812 stuff, I click on the War of 1812, that's category in the red circle, and the yellow arrow is taking you to the publication. So under the War of 1812, it's giving you all the record sets that are available for the War of 1812. So this is the American War of 1812. This is not the one with Captain Nelson, fighting off the French. Okay, so this is the American War of 1812. In that, you have your record sets. You have Army registers of enlistments. You have Army registers, which go back that far. Bounty land warrant applications, British regimental service, Canada's widow's portions. You have the foreign burial of American war dead. And you guys notice how everything is free? It says free, free, free. Then those are the free items that you can actually individually go through and search for. But look at the box at the top. There's a handsome man whose face is slightly hidden by that box. But you see that when I click on the War of 1812, it's just going to search for results within the War of 1812. So you've brought your search from the whole site to just the War of 1812. If I click on it again, I said I only want to see the War of 1812 pension files. So we've gone from War of 1812 in the red category. We have the publication in the middle. That's our second red circle that says War of 1812 pension files. And then I picked on, they actually allow you to go through Georgia, state by state by state by state. But if I click on War of 1812 pension files, my box changes at the top of the screen. So now if I'm searching, it's only going to search inside the War of 1812 pension files. Does that make sense to everybody? Right. So now because I'm browsing, it's allowing me to go through state by state by state. When I click on those states and I get to, let's say, Georgia, because imagine this is, accordion has really opened up, all right? We're about to really open up our accordion. I have the ability to browse by surname, because what do we get with surnames that aren't spelled correctly? They're going to be indexed incorrectly because they're spelled incorrectly. So your search isn't going to work. But with the ability to browse, I can look for Harris's. And that's another thing that's on this site. Sometimes people just use initials. J.C. Harris. So if you type in John C. Harris, you're not going to get anything in your search because the name is J.C. Harris, not John Harris. So if you browse, going through, I went to Georgia, I went to the letter H, I looked for Harris, and then all the Harris's just show up. Bam, I can just scroll down. I can look through Harris's all day. And I'm only looking for one specific Harris. I'm looking for, again, a John Harris. Hate that guy. So, but there's 2 John Harris's to choose from. Only 2, if you can imagine that. But remember, again, folks, with anytime you're working with pension files, check to make sure the laws for pension, to make sure they lived long enough to collect a pension. If you are looking for the War of 1812, and I do a whole nother presentation on the War of 1812 and going through old service files and pension records, the first time you could collect a pension was actually in land for enlisted men and started in 1850. You didn't start getting an actual money payout till 1871. So you would have had to have been in your late 60s, early 70s to start getting a physical money pension. And then for widows, that pension changes over time. So the longer they lived, the more money that they got. So double check. If Tony can't help you, go to the Midwest Genealogy Center website online. They have wonderful, wonderful downloadables about pension law and when people could start collecting pensions. They're downloadable handouts. I do this in my other program, but you guys are here. We're talking about War of 1812. It's one of my favorite subjects when I'm not doing World War I stuff, so call me crazy. Anyway, so if we click on John Harris here, it still gives me the ability to see his entire pension file before I ever get a chance to do anything else. I can actually see it's 21 pages. This isn't just a single page. This is a full, nice-sized pension file. So we're still in the accordion. We haven't gone anywhere else. We've just been following the trail of progress from the war to the record set to the type of record to the state to the surname to the name. I mean, we've been following it the whole way. When I get to that file, it takes me right to the first page. And because I can see the full page in the preview, I know this is the page I want to look at, because this is going to be the page that tells me the name of the person, more than likely the name of the wife or the widow or the children who are collecting this pension, and then all of the information that goes into it. And when I saw this and I saw the name of the wife, Dorina, when I saw that where they were living in Arkansas at the time that they were collecting their pension, when I see the date that he died, which I needed, I knew that this was the guy that I was looking for. I was unsure about the date. We had multiple problems with the date of death, and I said, but he must have served in the War of 1812 because his wife is getting this poor pension. Why it should have accounted for death. And all of my relatives who were doing research on this guy said, oh, there's no records for that guy, he died. And I'm like, well, I just went to Fold3 when I didn't have a date on a Friday night and decided that I would do a little searching, and I followed the bread trail, and I found that with the date and the day that he died, March 10th, 1867. So it goes through and tells you in order when this pension was collected and why it was collected and all the paperwork. And that's just on the first page. On the, up on the side, on the right-hand side in the red box, I have the ability to, again, plus, I can zoom in, minus zoom out. I can change the contrast. I can switch the orientation. At the bottom in the green box, I can move forward. I can move backward without having to press the back button, because I think that confuses people. Use the little buttons that are down here on the bottom to go forward or backward. If you, they also have a note area up here at the top with the yellow arrow on the right-hand side. You can add a note. So this is where you can say, his name is Harris, but it's spelled a different way. You can add that note here. You don't have to be a member. You can just add it. It's great. And then you have the ability to save it to Ancestry if you have a private Ancestry account. But I've been seeing different things on the free items. So the free records that are free, you can add them. If they are a record that belong to that don't say free on them, it will not let you save to Ancestry if you have a private Ancestry account. But if anybody has seen that change, please let me know. Because I know it'll allow you to save the free records, but not the other records. Does that make sense? Okay. So, yes, sir.
So in our library, using Fold3 here,
yes.
Somebody can go and leave a note.
Yes, absolutely. Not ask for anything. No, you're good to go. Up here at the top, you have a back button, the yellow, unless something has changed from the last time I looked at this. It should work. But at the top of the left-hand side, there's an arrow that goes backwards. That's your back button to get you back to that full screen of these records. Does that make sense? So that's following the browse trail to look at your options. Is this like looking at the Cook County indexes if you can actually see through the indexes and look at what your options are? So that's the beauty of this site. Up at the top of that screen on the right-hand side in the blue box that I have highlighted, you can find an image which I really haven't used all that much because I've noticed not everything has been optically recognized by their scanning software. So this works better for things that are typeset like city directories or some vital records. But it doesn't necessarily help in something like pension files because nothing's typeset and the software hasn't been able to recognize people's cursive. Sorry. So underneath that, you have the ability to download the individual page. You can print it. You can add a memorial. So if you have somebody who you've built a memorial for on the Fold3 site, you can add it to them. I have other things to do, but if you want to do that, that's great. And then you can share it on all of the newfangled social media stuff that you kids are into, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever you kids, Snapchat I'm sure is next, but whatever you kids are into these days. Yes, sir?
What's the difference between a note insertion and adding or creating a memorial? So the adding and creating a memorial, which we're going to get to, is that if you're adding a note, it's basically used to say, this person's name is misspelled, or this person, there's an amendment, or the transcription, whoever transcribed it made a mistake in the transcription, it should be this. And that's a holdover from footnote. Because I found my grandfather's name in a World War II roster as Dudek, D-U-D-A-K. I went through into this particular record that I was looking at and said it should be Frank Dudek with an E, D-U-D-E-K, service number this. I just kind of added that. So now anybody who goes to that record will see this little highlight and say oh, this record has a note that's attached to it. So not a lot of people take advantage of the note portions of this. They just accept it and then they move on. But it really is meant to kind of leave those little notes. They're like little messages in a bottle for another genealogist who may look at that note sometime in the future. So I found them very, very helpful, but not everybody chooses to do them. If you do see it and you want to contribute to it, do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not meant to be like, this person was horrible and they kicked their dog once. That's not the purpose of the note. The note is to help bring a clarification or a misspelling or something along those lines. Or maybe there was an issue with a service number that was incorrect. Whatever it is, it's fine. So that's it. So when we actually look at this record, what is really, really nice, if we take a look at it, can everybody read this? Yes. Yes, perfect. Why? Because we have the ability to scroll in, scroll out. We can pan around the page. Does everybody see this nice little guy down here in the right-hand side? I apologize, I didn't put him in a box. But this is your invisible dragging tool. So this allows you to point and click anywhere that's on this page and actually move this whole red box up and down as you're going through it instead of panning with your hand. You can just point and click and it takes you up to another portion of the page. Yes, sir?
Question. The I at the bottom that I've seen on another slide, will that give you source and citation?
Yes, that will give you sources and citations. You may not always be able to copy and paste them, but they will give you the source and citation of it. And that's a really lovely question, yes. So, and the film strip, which is right next to it, will take you back to the fuller portions of that record that you're looking for. So it's just not changing much, kids. This is kind of staying pretty consistent. So when we do find our John Nettleton, So when I click on him and I'm looking at his name, the box actually shows up, and I am able to say that on Fold3 it doesn't look like it, but when you look at the name and click on John Nettleton, it actually does not. If you guys have the census, like it'll illuminate or highlight your census for you sometimes on Ancestry. They're starting to do that now on Fold3, but in a less annoying way. And especially with these handwritten records that are a little bit older that might be a little askew, they are trying their hardest to make sure if you're clicking on John Nettleton, that little yellow box was actually through Fold3. The only thing I added was this little yellow arrow to show you where it was. So that actually, it takes you right to where in the document John Nettleton is, if this is the guy we're looking for, and it'll even put his name with the spelling here and with the little I for more source citation if you needed to. But then you can add a note citation at the top using that little annotation signal and say, it's Nettleton in this spelling, but in this year he's using the spelling, whatever it is. And that's really, really nice. They started adding these nice little yellow boxes that pop up in their older records, which I really, really appreciate. So here's another one. Here's for Simon Church. When you click on his record, it takes you to the annotations that somebody said, well, it's Simeon or is it Simon? Somebody just happened to say that this was an annotation. You can, again, if this was not correct, you could go through and add it. But this is the ability to flip this, where instead of it being bright, you can contrast it down and having it just highlight the name on the page. So please use that contrast button to make sure that whatever you're looking for kind of pops out on the screen. This is an option that not a lot of people use, so I want you guys to use that as much as you can. And then the little I, that's going to give you the annotations and any sort of information that's been added to this document. So you can actually go through and see your paper trail. So that's nice. So apart from that, if I want to save this person to Ancestry, so I have a private Ancestry account. I can't not have one. I need it for school. I need it for doing a lot of my own publishing that's available through Ancestry and whatever have you. I can add this to the Ezra Pope role if that's what I'm looking at. Add the record date, press next, and add that to my record. So that's one of the free records that was available on, at the time it was available on for Fold3, so which is why I took the screenshot. So that's how you do it. That's it's very easy. It integrates with Ancestry quite well and quite easily. So you are going to be able to add stuff to Fold3, and this is part of it, not just the connotations, not just the notes that you can add, and you can add them. I think they're going through an arbitration process now, and that probably will change 20 minutes from now, but we'll see. You can actually contribute photos to Fold3, and it's a free account that you actually can sign in. You do not, with the library edition, you do not need to you don't need to have a separate login. You just log in through the library where it says under member area at the top of the screen. If you sign up for a free Fold3 account, you can still go through and add notations. You can still go through and add, but they actually increase it by being able to add photos. And you can integrate it with your Facebook account. And you can sign up for a free email as well, so you can share things through Facebook if that's something that you're really, really into. So play with this. Even if you don't have Ancestry, you're not required to have Ancestry, but you really, to get the full effect of Fold3 for just the free account that you get through the library, do sign up for a free Fold3 sign up. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. And you can add some things to those memorial walls and stuff later, which is really, really nice. So if you want to do it, have it. So if this, for example, is my grandpa. So, and that picture's from what we have at home. So on the add photo area, and this was just free. I don't pay for Fold3, but once I log in through my library with my library card, and when I sign up for a free account through Fold3, I'm able to personalize my picture. I'm able to personalize my contact information, and then I can start adding more photos. I can add, this is his memorial wall, so I can edit and add more details. So I actually had I got his final payroll voucher sent to me through the mail through the National Archives. So I have his final payroll vouchers that I've uploaded since I had the screenshot. But what's really, really nice about it is because I've had him His record was up there initially, and they've done a really good job of that on the memorial page of just having names of people, because they've gathered all of these names from the site. And they've made everybody their own personal page. It doesn't matter if it's Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II. World War I's a little harder, but Korea, Vietnam, if you were in any of these other records and your name comes up in these records, they have saved a page for your ancestor and it's ready to go. You can actually start personalizing it right away. Yes, miss?
So if I requested records from St. Louis
Yeah.
on my father, and they said, well, it must have been the ones that were burned.
Oh,
Does that mean there's nothing?
Oh, no, there's tons. There's tons more. What war? World War I, World War II? Two, you're going to have privacy issues. Is your dad, has he passed or is he still with us? So any military service file that's before 1956, I believe, is public record. You can request it. For the most part, you're going to get a couple things. If you want to go in person, I'm sorry we're digressing and I apologize. If you take his death certificate down, make an appointment at the NRPC, you want to make an appointment for an orientation with him, make sure you have his death certificate with you. There are records that you can request. Things like his Veterans VA index card. That's fantastic. That's going to have a lot of information. Once you get his unit information, his pension information, what unit or regiment he served in, his service number, you can get beautiful things like World War II muster rolls, which anybody who does Civil War stuff, what's a muster roll? What does it tell you? Where somebody is at a month, at the end of the month, where they are, what they're kind of doing, where everybody else is. You get that for World War I and World War II. And then on top of it, you can get these beautiful things called morning reports. And morning reports, if you have a good sergeant who's filling out your information for you, they'll put the name of the person and what duty they're going to. If they're going on leave, where are they going? Where are they going on this day? What are they doing? And we sent this guy to go slag coal, and we sent these guys out to go get the mail or whatever have you. They will document day by day by day by day what the unit's doing, where they're going, who's doing what, and who won the baseball game. It's great stuff, but you need an appointment. So go. Anyway, so that's World War II, and Jennifer Hollick does a beautiful job. She has some beautiful books out on the subject, but and she's wonderful, and I'm sure her books, Tony has her books here, but she can help you out with that too. Get her books. They're amazing. The final payroll voucher is just a very tiny step in the whole stuff that you can get from them. And World War II, everybody loves kicking Nazis in the balls, so that's good too. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely, you should. And she does it for every branch. Oh, yeah, and you've got it up here. Stories from World War II Battlefield. That's volume 1, and that's Army. So Army, Air Corps was the Army, Air Corps, Navy? Army. So that's the book that you'll want to get. Tackle the Sky, steal the book. It'll be fun. Make sure Tony gets it on screen. So anyways, is everybody okay with adding stuff to this? It's very straightforward. You can add photos. You can add pictures of documents. You can add pictures of your veteran. You can link this to your Ancestry account. They try really hard to make it just about the military and not about the other vital records stuff that you have on Ancestry. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you have anything, this is a great way to contribute to the memorial wall on Fold3. So here's another one. This just happens to be an annotation, and I just walking you guys through the annotation. So Benjamin West, adding an annotation for Benjamin West. It has the ability that if I have Benjamin West here, and let's say Benjamin is misspelled, I have the ability to click on in the purple box on the upper right-hand side, add an annotation, and add my information there. Is it a name? Is it a date? Is it a location? And what's the transcription? And any comments that I have. And the comments are the big ones. Like if it's a name and the name is misspelled, you can actually just type in the real name. If it's a date because the date is smudged and somebody didn't see it correctly, just add the date. Same thing with location. Maybe this was a document that doesn't have a location listed, but in the annotations at the bottom it says where they are. So then you can go up and add the annotation for the location. Or if you want to try to transcribe it, have fun with that. But then the comments are also good too. So like he's known as under this name, especially anybody who changed names legally or changed names not legally, you have the ability to go in there and say, this person was known as Roger Stone. He had an argument with his dad, and then after this date, he's known as this name, day, and he ran off with the babysitter, and they had another family besides his first wife. So you can add whatever you want. So this is World War I stuff. It looks a little brisk. So I'm going to not necessarily run through a whole lot of it because I have something very exciting for all you guys. But just to let you know that the two big things for World War I stuff on here, the American Battlements Monuments Commission and then the Army Registers. And the Army Registers are one of the most underutilized military records on this database because it's not just enlisted men, but it's also officers. And they oftentimes give full biographies of the people who are serving, the day they were born, where they were born, any next of kin, especially if they're serving for more than like a 3-year time period. But those go back from 1898 to 1969. So you're getting a nice full biography. It's not going to take everybody on from like World War I, World War II. These were guys who were already in the military or maybe had an officership by the time they get to World War I or World War II. But it's still a place to check. So I always tell people just check. They might be important. For the non-military records, which I think is going to help a majority of people here, these are the ones that they have. Now, they have little things like the ratified amendments to the Constitution, and my personal favorite, which is Project Blue Book about the UFO investigations. I'm sorry, I just think that's the coolest thing ever. You guys aren't necessarily going to be into that, but you are going to want to get to a couple of things. One is the city directories, which don't look that phenomenal when they just say city directories. The newspapers, and the passport applications, the naturalizations. They do have the Social Security Death Index. They have something called town records, but those are specific towns and specific vital records from specific locations. So they don't list them all when you look at this. And the other one are vital records as well, and that's going to be Texas death certificates and Ohio, Cuyahoga County birth returns. So they're very, very specific. It's a holdover from footnote. So this is the city directories. If you guys, I don't think I put this in your handout. So if you want to take your camera out and take a picture of it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But these are the ones that I had. So these are the city directories they do have miscellaneous city directories, and I want to make you guys aware of those. The miscellaneous city directories are for small towns or mid-sized towns from Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin. Whoosh. So, but they do have the major city directories, though the ones for Chicago only go to 1923. So that's an important thing to kind of go by. Use these city directories in conjunction with the city directories that you get on Internet Archive. Is everybody using Internet Archive? Archive.org. We'll go there too. You guys are getting an all-you-can-eat buffet of genealogical material. I hope you guys are having a good time with this. The newspapers are a little, I know, Tony, you guys have a subscription to the Historic Trib Archive?
Yes, newspaperarchives.com.
Perfect, right. So you're going to subsidize those with things that you're going to get off the newspapers that are available. Not everybody's going to use the Washington Post, but if you're looking for anybody from Fort Wayne, Atlanta, San Francisco, or Virginia, they've got some really, really great records I don't know if they're going to be adding any more newspapers. I think that's something that Ancestry is trying to do on their own, but these were items that were already available on Footnote. So I don't know if they're going to grow these, but we'll see. I'm from Fort Wayne, or my dad's family, part of them are from Fort Wayne, so I had a really great time. I had a really wonderful time. These are more newspapers that are available if you have anybody from Kentucky. Don't ask me why. It seems half the state of Kentucky has newspapers available on Fold3. But you normally wouldn't think about it, would you? No, I wouldn't think of this many people from Kentucky who have this many newspapers, which is why if you're having problems tracking or somebody you know is having issues with somebody from Kentucky or tracing families from Kentucky, send them to the newspapers area on Fold3 because this is where a lot of them are hiding. Looking under the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, I was looking for my great uncle Frank, who at the age of 15 thought it was just going to be super cool to enlist in World War I. Yep, his mom and dad didn't sign a permission slip. He just went in with a bunch of friends and said he was 18 years old, and they absolutely believed him. Blows my mind how a 15-year-old can get in. But I knew I was looking for an article, and when I do World War I research, I always tell people, if you don't know anything and your family collections are a little sparse, look at newspapers, because typically people will crow about different family members serving in the military, right? They throw it in the newspaper. And sure enough, I found a really great article from 1918, because I'm only going to search through the time period that he's serving in the war, which is 1917 to 1919. And sure enough, in the article is one of the articles is the letter he sent home to his mom and dad when he was serving in the 86th Aerial Squadron. And what I love about it is because it does highlight his name, so it shows me specifically where his name is. So if you imagine there's a whole bunch of guys who are coming from a certain area who are all enlisting together, or you've got a bunch of casualty lists, they actually just highlight the last name. So that's really, really nice. So Franklin T. Rhodes tells of the hospitality of the British people. And what I love about this letter is they printed it verbatim. So you know it's the 20th letter he sent home, letter number 20. And then he talks about, he writes just like a 15-year-old, really. He's 16 by this time. He talks, well, folks, this is what I was doing, and we were thrown they were thrown a welcome party from the King of Portugal, but the king wasn't there, so I think they felt kind of indignant that he wasn't there. But there was plenty of alcohol, so I'm sure he was happy with that. But this is a great letter, and it's the only one I've ever found. And when I spoke to Uncle Frank's daughter and granddaughter, they don't have any of his letters. They have postcards, but they don't have any of his letters. So this is the one letter that we found that talked about his experience at this welcome party in London. So in 1910, when we go through city directories for Fort Wayne, again, if you're searching the site, you can use the yellow search box, or what I've highlighted in the yellow box in the middle, looking at city directories. I'm going to look through city directories for Fort Wayne for the year of 1910, and I can actually narrow it down. So if I want to be able to find my ancestor in a city directory, I can go to the name of the city directory, I can go to the year, and then search inside that city directory for just the name of Rhodes. That's better than trying to look through all the city directories from all of the different cities, trying to find the guy. I know they're in Fort Wayne. If you look at that census record and you know they're in Fort Wayne in 1910, well then I know I can go to the 1910 census or 1910 city directory and just search under 1910 for Rhodes, and I'm going to find them on that page. That's it. That's made my life a lot easier. That's the beauty of this. So as we go through the historical records for Fold3, there's a lot here. If you have anybody, a grandkid or a kid or somebody you tutor who needs copies of something cool like the Gettysburg Address or the purchase of Alaska or the patent for the light bulb, you can get them here. You can download them, you can print them, you can save them, you can look at your iPad together. You can make history come alive for the next generation. They also have a very nice collection of FBI files. They have Eastern Cherokee applications. Remember that there's applications and rejected applications, and they're kept at two separate locations. The rejected applications are in one, the accepted are in the another. Neither of the two shall probably ever meet, but we shall see. And they're not all digitized and they're not online, but the indexes, at least for some of them, are on Fold3. No, wrong way. All right, there we go. So here's the memorial area. If you guys want to go through your memorial area and start building up your ancestors area, just go up to the memorials. It's in the yellow box that I've highlighted at the top. So we have home, search, browse, and memorials. You can go under search for a specific name, or you can click on the actual icon. These icons are great because if you know that somebody was in the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, you can type and click on the actual conflict. So you can click on Revolutionary War and put Ezra Pope, or you can write John James and type in and click on Civil War, though that is a crapshoot if you have a very common name. But once you get to, and looking at, I just defaulted to all branches because I wanted to show you what some of your options are. If I found my Ezra Pope right away from the state of Connecticut, knew exactly where that was. But here's an Ezra Pope from World War II, another from World War II, one from World War I. The Navy, just saying civilian Navy, another World War II and another civilian Navy. And if you can't find your specific veteran, you can actually add them to the wall. So this will actually come in handy more for World War I stuff. If you have a World War I ancestor, I always have to lay that out because not everybody's going to be in World War I. Maybe they were in a training camp here in the United States. They finished their training, and then they're helping out at a Great Lakes depot, and they never went to France, so maybe they're here and they don't have a record. You can add that manually through Fold3 on the honor wall. So when I get to Ezra Pope, I do have the ability to add a photo, like that's going to happen for a dude who served in the Revolutionary War, but he did live until, I believe, 1842, so it's possible that he could have gotten a photograph with an early daguerreotype, or somebody had a portrait painted and then somebody took a picture of the portrait. So, leave it open to opportunity. But I do like the little Yankee tricorder, he's got on. And here's the records that I can add. So I took screenshots of the records that I downloaded from other places and just started uploading them like a crazy little person. And I can contribute it and I can save it to Ancestry if I want. So you could do that for every single person if you wanted to. Winter's over, so I suggest go play in your garden for a while and save this for like your winter activity, but go there. If you guys ever get lost or need help, in the yellow box you see at the very, very end is the help area. They have questions on searching, viewing documents. They've changed quite a bit of their searching mechanisms. At Roots Tech, I was there in Salt Lake City in February and in March, doing a couple lectures, and I met with the Fold3 guys. And they said, yeah, we've had a lot of complaints about our search mechanism. And I'm like, whoa, no surprise there, buddy. So they're trying really hard to be more flexible with your searches and everything to kind of give you a better result. I'm not going to necessarily take questions as much as I am going to take you to the exciting multiple place. This is my exciting news, and I just got it literally in my email 20 minutes before actually, that's not true. I was checking my email in the elevator on my way to drive here, and I found this. So this is www1, just www1cc.org/guide. So I wrote a little guide not too long ago. When I wrote it, it was 4 years worth of work, because I was calling and emailing places trying to figure out who had World War I collections, what was going to be made available online. I was very proud of myself. Celeste was there when she saw me, happy and jubilant, because I thought my job was over. Lies. Because it seemed the moment I decided to print this book and people started asking for it, other states and archives were like, oh crap, that's right, the centennial's coming up. We didn't do anything. So then they started adding all of this new stuff, it seemed the moment I pressed the publish button. I did a podcast with the World War I Centennial Commission last year, and with their permission, and I sent them my guide, they liked it. And they said, this is something we get a lot of questions about, how to search for your World War I ancestor. I sent them a free copy of my book, because I said, here you go, have fun with that. It won't help you now because Indiana just added this and Washington just added this, but I got all indignant, But they loved it, and they said, well, could we reprint parts of it? I said, you can have the whole thing. I don't really care, have fun with that. I said, but I do want to update it. What do you need it for? Do you need it, do you want a copy in your office? They're like, no, we'd like to make it available as a free download off our site. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, well, we're hoping that people will donate to the memorial. So if you sign up for the mailing list, then you get a free copy of the World War I Genealogy Research Guide, new and updated as of March. So it's free for the first 5,000 people who sign up for it. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free. But I know that they will be asking you to spare a couple bucks for the memorial. They've got enough to build the actual monument in Washington, D.C., in Pershing Park, which is right off the National Mall. But remember, World War I is the only war that does not have a national monument in Washington, D.C. Everybody else has one except World War I. There's a beautiful national monument in Kansas City that was donated from people all over the country. So we will have two monuments, one in Kansas, but we do not have one in Washington, D.C. And that is going in Pershing Park. And if you've ever been in Pershing Park near the mall, it's very forgettable because it's ugly. But the new monument's going to be gorgeous. And it's going to be beautiful. And I saw the reliefs for it. So even just a couple of bucks for this, throw them a couple of dollars to help build that memorial. If you have anybody who has World War I ancestors, please tell them to sign up for this. And I know they're doing a soft release now. They're really going to publicize it around Memorial Day. So you guys are the first people I've been able to tell that we're doing this. So believe me, I spent another 3 months of my life when I should have been writing my new book, working on this, trying to make sure everything was correct and as concise as I possibly can. But just as you write, just like with genealogy, anytime you write something, you think you're done, and that's never how it works out. You're never done. You're never, ever done. So, but in this instance, the ebook is available for free for the first 5,000 requests. There will be more after this, but they're trying to get the first 5,000. That's going to be their launch. So if you guys are interested in World War I, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. And the guide is free, so please sign up for it, download it, and use it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, on our Fountaindale website, which is fountaindalegenealogy.org, this is our research and genealogy blog. If you guys ever can't make it to one of our programs, we have a full event schedule that's on our page. It takes you through all of our listings for our full year of programs. If you see anything with the blue TV screen, that means that we record it and we put it up the day after or within a couple of days after the program. It's up for 30 days. We do not keep them after 30 days. The only thing we put for 30 days or that's longer than that are our Genealogy Day programs, which are our big annual conference that we hold in Bolingbrook. And you'll see a live webinar. And so that's our Genealogy Day, and that's up. So you just missed Gail Lukasik, who had a really great program on how PBS Genealogy Roadshow solved her family mystery. But right now, Maureen Brady is up for Advanced Family Search. So if you haven't seen Maureen Brady and would like to see her in action, she's amazing. You absolutely have to book her because she's fabulous. Then we have the PGSA who's going to be out. But that webinar is recorded through them, so if you want to pay the $10 to watch it through them, you're more than welcome to. And then Jean Lazar-Bloom will be here in June, and that webinar will be up as well. So we do take a couple breaks for the summer because, no offense, we're going to go take pictures of billion graves because that's the type of people that we are. So we do a thing called Beer and Billion Graves where we meet up together. We go to, we have people download billion graves on their phone. Everybody takes pictures of a cemetery together. Then we go to the pub that has Wi-Fi and we have a couple drinks and we upload our stuff on billion graves. My youngest member is 13. That's Tim. He's my 13-year-old. His dad is in my genealogy club. And Tim sometimes just gets dropped off because his dad is kind of like, take him. And I'm like, sure. And he always gets a cookie skillet. He's not allowed to drink. So he gets whatever he wants to eat. And he always gets a cookie skillet. And he's the best little troubleshooter. He knows his way around a smartphone better than anything. And the funniest bit is that if you have somebody who's not that confident, who's like, I'm not sure, he'll say, push the button. You can do it. Push the button. He's the coolest little guy ever on the planet. So I love him. Anyway, so those are the things that we have. When you click on webinars at the top, you get to see all of the webinars that we have available. So here's Maureen Brady. All you have to do is simply press the button in the middle, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Press the button in the middle, the downloaded handout is right there, and the handout's available at the same time. So if you don't feel comfortable or don't know how to navigate something, you can get to webinars and then just press the giant button, right? Right? I mean, this is pretty easy. The Genealogy Day stuff that we just did was all DNA related. So we had Robert Zielinski with us, Marsha Peterson-Moss, we had Steve Sabados. Oh, do you guys talk about Polish Jerry Springer? Then watch this first episode. It is the best. It's one of the best explanations of a non-paternal event I have ever heard in my entire life. It was juicy. It was Springerish. You are the father. It was wonderful. So if you want that sort of stuff, it was great. So that's always available. If you can't always make it to our meetings, please watch our webinars, watch our event schedule. Let us know how we can help. The other thing too is that if you guys are looking for, your newbies are looking for an online course and don't have time to meet with Tony, please take the free online genealogy course through my alma mater, University of Strathclyde, which is free. Right now they're probably going to have a program or have a free class that's available in September. They tend to do it during the colder winter months, but you can email for notification. They get almost between 36 to 52,000 students in this class because it's genealogists from all around the world. So you get to have, it's 4 hours a week. So if you're new to genealogy or you're just looking for a refresher, or maybe you want to start specializing in your British genealogy topics, but it's good for anybody with any background. They give you assignments to do. You complete your assignments. They'll have really great exercises where maybe they'll give you like a methodology and you'll go out and follow it, and then you'll type up a little paragraph about what you did. You also get to network with genealogists from all over the world, which is amazing. So please, if you're interested in it, you can sign up for free through FutureLearn, and then you can email when the course is available. But there's always courses available as far as categories wise. So I always go to the history area to see what kind of courses they have. So I took this one, England in the time of King Richard III. He's the king they found in the car park, buried under a parking lot. So I'm like, I had to learn more about that guy, so that was cool. Hadrian's Wall for anybody who's a Roman enthusiast. Archaeology, Irish, an introduction to Irish culture, radical spirituality, the early history of Quakers. I signed up for this class because I have Quaker ancestors and I know they originated in England. So I want to know more about their life, their experiences, everything before they came to the United States. They got here at about 1632. So I want to really kind of focus on that early period, and this is going to help out immensely. They also have a World War I heroism through art and film, which is really interesting. But they have tons of different classes. So, you know, use this as a guide. This is always free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can just press the join for free button, or you can click on the actual item. It'll tell you how many hours a week for 6 weeks, what day it starts, what topics you'll go through, and they have a course right now for this one that starts May 13th, so it actually just started yesterday, and they have another one in August. So you can actually just email and find out when they do things. So I know that was a lot of information to dump on you, and we are like past time, I'm sure. We're okay on time? Oh, I was going to show you guys archive.org really fast, right? Okay. Perfect. Okay, so here's, if you guys need to leave, I understand. Love you. Bye. Yeah, I understand. It's cool. So on archive.org, this is a free website that you can, actually, if you guys want to see me in full action, when you go on YouTube, I'm never advocating this. I didn't put it on our webinar area. Ology, Internet Archive, ARCHIVE. I actually recorded this because Tina Baird was not able to make it to one of our programs, and I don't have a streaming contract for myself. So if you want to see the whole program, it's just called Internet Archive for Genealogy, and you can watch it for free on Internet Archive. But it's using this website here, archive.org. So you have the ability to search for items. If I look through city directories real quick, it brings up all of my options. And I always tell people to go through the genealogy portion of the website first. You can always type in genealogy, but it shows me all of the city directories that are available. And this is where you're going to get those diggity darn awesome, amazing city directories from the 50s, 60s, 70s. Are through Internet Archive, because public libraries in places like Allen County Public Library are making these available, are digitizing them as part of their Internet Archive project. So here's Pensacola County, or Pensacola City for 1903, but then you'll have Windsor City Directory for 1952. So go through here and see what they've got. These are just ones that just popped up right away, but I do have the ability to look at them by year. I have the ability to put them by topic over here on the side. So for genealogy, I have the ability to, they have all of the Nashville city directories, which I thought was kind of interesting, but I actually can also pick through, is it in English, is it here? If I don't want city directory, I could just type in Illinois.
Are those searchable?
They're searchable. Mm-hmm.
So if you do a surname,
Absolutely.
the page comes up.
Yeah, it should. And there are some that are too muddled, that are been photocopied, and so it's harder for the OCR to pick up. So not everything is available searchable. But I'll pick one. In my webinar, I give an example, but let's go through Illinois city directory. I cannot spell. I'm letting you know, as a journalist, I cannot spell. So here's one for Shelbyville, 1909, Princeton. So I'm going to go for Peoria because that looks pretty fun. And when I get inside the actual item, I have the ability to search inside. So if I'm going to just use Smith because that's the easiest thing. It may take a moment for it to search, and it is dependent if it was OCR'd when it was added. So if it takes its time, this is not a good sign if it doesn't show up, because it means that it was probably added early before they started doing this, and that's possible. But as it says, I'm able to scroll through each individual page, which is nice, and look at every single page the way I want to. I also have the ability to scroll through this way at the bottom and come through each individual area. So if I want to get right to the S's right away, I can just kind of take my guy. Oh, there's tons of Smiths. That's why it took so long. But when it gets to a page, and I can scroll in on it, yeah, everybody see that all right? So it'll say Oronsky, Morris, Junk, Smith, Oswell, Albert, Helper, Avery, Company, Residence, 822 Hulbert Street. So there were a lot of Smiths. I probably should have used somebody else. That's why I had so many problems. But at least you can click on these and it takes you right to where that Smith is. And you actually have the available. So if I click on something here, it'll tell me in the preview, this is Smith Premier Typewriter Company on this page. I don't even have to click on the page. It gives me that little snapshot of what that Smith is, which is super nice. And so I don't even have to click on the page if it's not the person I need. So that's really, really good. So these are on Internet Archive. Just watch the webinar. If you have any questions, let me know. But this is really, really great. You can always look for Illinois. You can look for Michigan. City directories and rural directories exist. For a lot of them will for Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio. Have a really great collection of not only rural directories but city directories as well. But I think that part of that's because of Allen County Public Library. So they've been pumping these out left and right. So yes, Mr. Tony.
One word of caution with Internet.
Yes.
Make sure that when you start browsing through it, that you look at your watch, because you will be looking at
right. Here's your pro tip. So if you just type in genealogy into Internet Archive, there is a collection, and they do try to bookmark this. This has 145,000 items. They say that's genealogy, but that's not necessarily true. I found things in here that are like the genealogy of fruit trees. That's not, it's nothing to do with human genealogy, but I did not know there was so much about the genealogy of fruit trees, okay? So when you click on this, they do give you by views of collections, and all of those reclaim the records, so all of those New York indexes. If you're not finding your ancestor in the New York indexes, birth, marriage, and death records for New York State, New York City, it's not because you're crazy. It's because Ancestry sort of did a rush job indexing them and is still adding names. That and the fiche from 1941 to 1946 is practically illegible. So if you actually go through the areas for Reclaim the Records and you're looking underneath the New York State Death Index, instead of mucking your time searching through every single one, just type in the year that you need. If you have a roundabout year, this is how bad the fiche is. And I use this as an example in my webinar, but can you guys see why you're not going to get the information on this person? It's because that's the last name. That's the first name. This is the location. These are the certificate numbers. Unless somebody had went through the fiche and went through on ink and wrote on the physical fiche, you're not able to read it. I drove 14 hours to the Buffalo Public Library when I was much thinner, and I was less sweaty. And I went there, and at the time you had to put you had to give them your driver's license, because it was only one of 3 depositories that would allow you to see the fiche in person. So I gave them my driver's license. They put me on a microfilm reader, which is fine, but I said, can I use the digital microfilm reader? No, you can't. You can't do it. You can only use the microfiche reader. And I'm like, this is some bull crap. Okay, fine. Sure. And I was able to see my ancestor's name, Wayland, because she died in 1943. Wayland in the first column, Emma in the second column, Buffalo in the third column, because you can make out the B-U-F-F, and I'm like, there's not like Bluff Lake, New York. But the rest of the numbers I was able to pick out like a number here and there. But if this is what we're dealing with, I sent a death certificate request to the state, to the city, and to the county for a death that happened in 1943. Those robber barons took my money and said, we don't have anything on file. They don't say they can't find it because they can't find it. They can't read the fiche. That in New York State lost 30 years of their vital records indexes. Yeah, they lost 30 years of them. That's why you can't find them, because they lost 30 years of them. So you're not crazy. It's just that you don't know until your friend comes over and tells you these things over a very nice bottle of water, okay? So these are the things that you guys should look at. So please watch the webinar. I don't advertise it. I don't put it up on the webinar area, but I'm very big in Canada for some reason, which is cool. I always wanted to be big in Canada. So but there's a lot of things to look forward through. Please you could search inside this search the collection box. Search for names, search for locations are better. Look for like Macomb, Michigan, or for Clay, Illinois, or whatever it is. And then look for surnames. So if you're looking for a surname genealogy book, put Harris, put Smith. Don't put Smith. Put Harris, put Vandiver, put somebody's name in here. And know that not every published family genealogy is going to be the name of that family. They sometimes call it Bad Times and Good Times in Bay City, with no recognition of the name of the family, okay? So use this. It's really great. I will take questions because I've kept you guys really long. Are there any questions about Fold3, Internet Archive, World War I, World War II? What can I do for you? Yes, sir.
Why did you go to a university in Scotland?
Because it was the best university I wanted to go to. Actually, they have a technology-based library program, and they have an entire module that was dedicated to genealogy at the time on a newfangled website called Family Search. Ooh. It was called Family Search Labs at the time, so we got to beta it. It was great. But it was a technology-based library degree, and I got out with my master's in 1 year with my dissertation, which was very fun. Watched a lot of Antiques Roadshow, traveled a lot, did a lot of my own genealogy. Yes, ma'am. And your question? Yes, ma'am. What, for Army, Navy, Marines? Army would have been in their service record. So if their service record does not exist, there are some other records you can consult, and it would be in either the morning sick reports, which would be separate, or consult the genealogists or the archivists that are there. They might have another way for you. I'm sorry? Right, you go in person. Don't just go in person. If you go in person, they can help you a lot more than if you try to correspond with them. They get like 2,000 requests a day, so go in person. Just make the trip. It'll be fun. St. Louis has some great barbecue places. I can tell you where they are. Go to the Native American mounds that are in East St. Louis. You know, go to Lafayette Park. Go have a coffee. They have a nice little champagne bar there now. It'll be fun. Just go. Yes, sir.
Merchant Marine records will work.
That they survive. They will be at National Archives too. You can either send away from them online or you can go in person. They are fine. No problems. Merchant Marine's fine. They have all their records. We're good to go. What else? Nothing else? Have I overwhelmed? Oh, yes, madam. I'm sorry.
Do you know anything about the polar bears unit from World War I?
Yes, I do. Yes, so there's a whole polar bear unit on Fold3 that actually goes through, I think both Fold3 and Ancestry both have information about the polar bear units. Check the U.S. Army transport lists on Ancestry, because if they're not going to be in the World War I area of Ancestry. You have to go through the card catalog and look for U.S. Army transport lists.
U.S. Army
transport lists. They're from 1912 to 1910 to 1939. You will find the transport list for your polar bear veteran ancestor of them going to Russia and them coming back. And they're normally leaving out of San Francisco. But it will give them their unit, their next of kin, their service number. You'll be good to go with that.
This was between 1917 and 1919.
That's correct.
In Siberia.
In Siberia, absolutely. They still have to transport them across the ocean. So they're going to be in that transport list, but if you go in the World War I section of Ancestry, it won't show up. You have to go to the catalog and go to that area.
And then do I have to list the year?
No, you don't have to list the year, but you're going to want to know their next of kin name or where they were from. So if you knew where they were living, whether it's Illinois or Chicago or whatever, or the name of their mom or dad, that's going to be helpful. And if you know their unit, that's even better. But if you...
I think I have it. It's my grandfather.
Perfect. If you have it, throw it in there. And he's going to have one going there and one coming back. And believe me, that was a cold, long trip. So my heart goes out to him because they were basically... Everybody know about the polar bears? Okay, so we had this great idea to go help protect the Trans-Siberian Railway. So we decided to send these nice young men from all over the United States who'd never seen that much snow before and sent them to Russia. And we decided to let them sit there for the better part of 2 years with not enough ammunition, not enough heating, heating sources, not enough food, and kind of sort of just make sure the Bolsheviks didn't cause too many problems, but also make sure people like the Chinese weren't trying to blow up the Trans-Siberian Railroad. So it was really they were just basically kind of left there and slightly abandoned.
And the Japanese part of that too?
Yeah, the Japanese were in World War I, and their job was basically to take over German islands that were in the Pacific. So they were kind of given carte blanche by the British because they teamed up and how can we help? Okay, Japan, you can go take all these little islands in the Pacific, which would later come to bite us in the butt in World War II. But the Japanese loved it so much, they got to sit at the big kids' table at the Treaty of Versailles, and they got to kind of help with the negotiations, and they got to keep all those little islands. And because they loved it, they're like, we want more. So they decided to invade Manchuria. But no, the Japanese are not necessarily a part of that, but there were ships coming in. So America's trying to be the star fleet of the Trans-Siberian Railway. And they're trying really hard to make sure all the fashions are being nice to each other. And all the time they're getting smacked. From the French, from the Germans, from the Russians, why aren't you doing more for us? Why aren't you doing more for us? And they're like, we don't have enough supplies. We're just here to make sure people don't blow things up. That's basically their job. There you go. Am I better than any high school teacher you ever had? All right. Get out of here, kids. Let me know if you need something else. Happy to help. All right.